Hello and good evening. Welcome along to Business Today. I'm Jorum Sonko with Winni and Nakawuki on for the sign language. But first, let's have a look at our top stories.
In Business Today, local oil and gas companies advise on formality and joint ventures to exploit oil and gas opportunities. Finance Ministry releases last quarter budget as wages and salaries dominate. Deficits in March recorded at 822 billion. And President Museveni issues 5 directives aimed at tourism development. Uganda targets a minimum $10,000 as individual tourism expense.
And now we kick it off with the fourth quarter budget release. The Ministry of Finance has released the fourth quarter expenditures for the financial year 2022-2023. Providing insight into the government's spending priorities in the final quarter. The government core focus for this quarter are health, education and infrastructure, as well as debt servicing and security. We have more in this report.
Government has released $5 billion for the fourth quarter of this fiscal year, which is equivalent to 22.6% of the government's budget allocation. Compared to the third quarter's release of $20 billion, it is anticipated that the release of this money will supply crucial sectors with much-needed resources. However, concerns remain over the efficiency of government spending and the long-term viability of Uganda's fiscal balance.
This quarter, which is going to run up to June, as I told you, starting this month of April, we have released 5.08 trillion, representing 22.6% of the government of Uganda budget, and this has been released as follows. Wage, we have released 1.6 trillion, and that is 25% of the total wage. Non-wage, we've released 2.12 trillion, that is 19% of the non-wage. Government of Uganda Development, we have released 1.334 trillion. That's about 17% of the Government of Uganda Development budget. And arrears, we have released 24.19 billion. That is 3.7%. So in total, we've released 22.6% of the budget this last quarter. The above release translates into a cumulative outturn of 106.2% of the approved budget of Government of Uganda.
Government has been encouraged to prioritize paying off arrears by cutting back on needless spending, increasing revenue and putting steps in place for debt restructuring or refinancing in order to combat the huge debt burden.
For continued to facilitate economic recovery of our economy and especially controlling the inflation, which has now come down to 9% and perhaps it's going to continue to come. But there are a number of issues that PSST and the technocrats in the ministry and the government that want to raise, put them to attention, which could further help in the economic recovery of our economy. The first one is the high debt burden, I think, remains a thorn in our flesh. And we want to commend, of course, the Ministry of Finance for prioritizing payment of arrears, especially the domestic debt. But we still think that we could substantially reduce the domestic borrowing so that we save money for the private sector.
Karuna Magembe, Executive Director at CS Bank, says that in order to properly manage the economy, the government needs to discover a symmetric method when drafting the budget. Hence, a balanced approach to budget planning entails striking the right place between spending reductions and investments in crucial sectors.
When we look at the budget for 23-24 that is being discussed now, for example, Ministry of Gender has a projection of losing around 79% of its budget from the current year. Our biggest question is there a criteria that defines these budget cuts?
A well and planned budget ensures that the government effectively manages available resources and provides essential services to its citizens while promoting long-term economic growth and development. Martha Nemsima, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, moving on further, Presidential's new directive on the tourism development has been highlighted as His Excellency Yoweri Museveni has issued 5 directives aimed at improving Uganda's image in his maiden quarterly address to the country that focused on supporting the tourism sector. He did highlight the importance of boosting the private sector to increase Uganda's export earnings, setting up Uganda trade hubs at the airports, tamaking the 4 export aerodromes across the country, as well as training of staff in the hospitality industry about Uganda's tourist locations, and most importantly, rehabilitating Kampala's poor state of roads. Ronan Ahabwe has details.
Uganda was recently named among the best travel destinations in 2023 by a U.S. broadcaster, CNN. Sector performance reports indicate recovery amidst economic tribulations. Impression to the global market perhaps explains why the president wants every high-category visitor who comes to Uganda for a week to at least spend $10,000. To achieve this, among several directions, the president directed the Civil Aviation Authority and the Ministry of Works to integrate with the private sector to set up hubs, starting with the one at Entebbe International Airport.
In order to present a more welcoming image of our country, I direct Civil Aviation Authority, CAA, and the Minister of Works to work with the private sector and set up the Uganda trade hubs, starting at Entebbe International Airport.
The incense of road infrastructure towards sustainable development remains unwavered. The president, among other directives, has tasked Kampala Capital City Authority to provide monthly updates on the cleanup, repair and maintenance of roads. 6 billion from the Finance Ministry has been allocated for the cause.
I now direct the Ministry of Finance to urgently release the quarterly contribution to KCCA of Uganda shilling 6 billion for pothole filling, repairs and maintenance of roads.
Uganda Communications Commission has, along similar directives, been ordered to work with telecom operators to provide broadband internet in game lodges and aerodromes, including 5G networks for places like hospitals, hotels, and educational institutions. At the same meeting, the president welcomed a delegation from the Republic of Serbia, led by the country's trade minister, Honorable Tomislav Momirovic. On President Alexander's behalf, an agreement with Uganda that involves a plan to develop Uganda's tourism sector to 6 billion euros was unearthed.
Improve your main products as coffee, fruit, and we will push as hard as we can to promote your tourism potential here. Lastly, Serbia is excited to host Expo exhibition in Belgrade. It presents a tremendous opportunity for Ugandan companies to showcase themselves on European markets. We look forward to working closely with Uganda to facilitate your participation in existing events. Mr. President, thank you very much in front of the Serbian government for warm welcome and opportunity to deepen our friendship and partnership.
I believe very much it's relevant to lead by example, so I decided to be the first to put my own resources into what I believe. And I believe we can grow the exports of Uganda together by 6 billion euro until 2028.
The private sector as well expressed grievances in various sectors as the president further launched the Trade Frontier Fund.
As private sector, we've been facing issues regarding access to patient capital, and even when we access it, the terms of the instruments available are very stringent. Many times exporters are unable to meet their contractual obligations, and we are extremely happy that you've been able to contribute to this fund.
This will help exporters underwrite their invoices and provide them with working capital. Ronan Ahabwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now let's look at unlocking local content in the oil and gas sector. The Executive Director of the Uganda Petroleum Authority, Ernest Rubondo, has encouraged the oil and gas sector service providers to embrace joint ventures that will help them acquire technology. This will bring them towards full exploitation of business opportunities in the sector and enhance their readiness and capacity. We have details.
The oil and gas sector has been identified and prioritized as one of the sectors with the greatest multiplier effect on the economy. To even more concerning, some local companies don't have the technology and finances to secure some contracts. According to the executive director of the Uganda Petroleum Authority, Ernest Rubondo, there is a need to embrace joint ventures that will help them acquire technology that will bring them towards full exploitation of the business opportunities in the sector, and that it will also enhance their readiness and capacity.
Of course, some of the services required high technology, require a lot of finance, and the companies in Uganda are not able to provide these services. In situations like those, one way they can provide these services is by getting together with foreign companies, and this is what we call a joint venture. You can also have joint venture between Ugandan companies, but the ones that attract the technology, that attract the finance, are usually with international companies.
According to 2022 data from the Uganda Petroleum Authority, investment in the oil and gas sector grew by $180 million in 2022 to $500 million in 2021, and was projected to grow at $3 billion by 2022. In an effort to unlock local content in the oil and gas sector, Roboto says that the current overall total investment has hit between $15 to $20 billion, and that they are targeting 40% of this money remaining in the country.
The total investment in the oil and gas sector overall, including support infrastructure, is anywhere between 15 to 20 billion United States dollars. The target now is for 40% of that money to come into the country. We are finding that as you go down to the lower levels, that also is increasing. So if you take 40% of the 20 billion, that comes to 6-8 billion coming into the economy. There are other aspects like linkages between the oil and gas sector and other sectors of the economy. These linkages can also bring an additional $6 to $8 billion into the economy. But I think one of the most important things is the capacity of industry, capacity of the employees, so that subsequently they can do much higher work both in the country and in the region.
All of that money is kept here. Where does it end? In Ugandan banks. So if Ugandan banks have an excess of cash, what happens? They reduce their interest rate, because now they are sitting on excess cash. They do not know where to lend that money. So it will naturally reduce the rate of interest. So there are so many advantages that come from retaining money.
In 2021, the value of contracts awarded to Ugandan companies in the sector increased to $20 million, an increase of almost 20 times. Professor Charles Kwesgwa, the Executive Director, Uganda Industrial Research Institute, and also the chairperson of the Association of Uganda Oil and Gas Service Providers, says that there is a need for skilled manpower if local companies are to exploit business opportunities in form of contracts.
We need skilled manpower. How do we do it? Let's move ahead and offer apprenticeship training, for example. Beef up the knowledge base of our people. Ugandans are very educable. We have proved the world that we have some of the best brains there might be. So it's a question of making those people understand the practicality of the sector. What does it need to be able to be engaged in the sector?
Uganda has implemented strict national content regulations, which the Petroleum Authority of Uganda is strictly enforcing in order to maximize the participation of local businesses in the oil and gas value chain. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now let's talk matters strengthening public finance management. Uganda's public sector has continued to be affected by accountability scandals despite the introduction of public finance management reforms and the integrated financial management systems for local governments. It's this reason, though, that the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Uganda has held the inaugural Public Finance Management Conference, aiming at strengthening public finance management for sustainable development and tackle the challenges affecting optimal utilization of the public resources. Naomi Mutumba reports.
In July 2022, the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, Ramadhan Gowi, sacked a total of 110 non-compliant accounting officers for failure to submit the district budget estimates, work plans, and procurement plans on the Integrated Financial Management System for the financial year 2022-2023, thus breaching the Public Finance Management Act of 2015. In 2023, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Tayewa, announced that accounting officers who would have not accounted for the public funds will be held accountable for any shortfalls in the financial year 2023-2024 budget.
If someone does not qualify to be an accounting officer, it means that person cannot keep finances of the country safe. So why keep them in positions of responsibility? Where is the gap? Is it in the law? If it's in the law, then we amend the law. If you are dropped as an accounting officer, we know it's a disciplinary measure and a harsher sentence is given.
Public finance management is the backbone of national development, and the world's fastest growing economies have placed PFM at the forefront. It is for this reason the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Uganda has held the inaugural Public Finance Management Conference to strengthen public finance management for sustainable development and tackle the challenges affecting optimal utilization of public resources.
Management is the way governments manage public resources, definitely, including collecting revenue and controlling expenditure, accounting for both revenue and expenditure each year, and also reporting to the various accountable institutions on the performance of revenue and expenditure each year.
The efforts government has made in terms of driving public financial management, the systems that have been put in place, the automation, but we are saying how can we enhance this so that we can actually be a center of excellence where other countries can actually come and learn from us.
As accountants,
the introduction of the IFMS system, particularly for local government accounting officers, has enabled the government to create more accurate and timely information, directly increasing accountability and the fight against corruption. Nonetheless, there are still holes that must be filled.
Some local governments have been under budgeting. They have been underestimating local revenue collections, and they send back this money when they cannot access it, because you can only access money where you have a budget. What is the procedure where
system brings in automation? There is no manual intervention required in any of these things. All you do is you input the data and it is transmitted automatically and the recipient gets the money. There is no manual intervention. There is nothing like I've come to chase my payment. So it even eliminates the tendencies of corruption. And of course it leaves a trail. A trail means that a particular transaction can be traced from the beginning to the end. So it is a very powerful system. It has worked so well. We are so happy with it. But like with anything, there is always room for continuous improvement.
The economy grew by 7.5% in the first quarter of the fiscal year, and the Ministry of Finance projects that it will grow by 5.3% in the fiscal year 2022-2023 and 6% in the fiscal year 2023-2024, necessitating additional action from the accounting body through prudent management of public funds.
First of all, the PIP at that particular time, then NDP 1, now NDP 2, which has been midterm reviewed, and also saw quite a number of things that require that the PFM reforms must respond to the need for alignment in that direction. And now we are going to gear ourselves to prepare for NDP 3, and each stage certainly has got a number of things that inform the need for the reforms in the PFM system.
This accounting stakeholder engagement aims to unite public sector players in order to share, re-empower and advance the social and economic advancement of the nation. Infrastructure, healthcare, security and education are examples of public goods that are best delivered by the government, and public authorities must be held accountable for public spending. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And now let's have a look at the specialized employment strategies. Development partners have invested an additional 832 million Ugandan shillings into the Youth to Work Phase 4 program to support more young professionals become catalysts for positive change in business and communities across Kampala. The funding from the Standard Chartered Foundation comes at a time when the country and indeed the world are recovering from the devastating impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. More details here.
The Commissioner for Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises at the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, Dr. Joshua Mutambi, says that this program is there to support the youth participation in the small and medium enterprises. The Standard Chartered Foundation, in partnership with the Challenges Worldwide, a Kampala-based business development consultancy, launched the scale-up of the Youth to Work Phase 4 program worth 832 million.
This program is here to support the youth, to facilitate them to participate within the SMEs. And while they are in the SMEs, they are supposed to learn, because they first of all get trained and they now practice their skills within the enterprises. But as they are there, definitely they are to learn how to do businesses, they are to support the enterprises, to be innovative. And when the enterprises grow, we know that they have to increase on their revenues.
The Youth to Work is a flagship employability project under Future Makers by Standard Chartered Foundation. It is the bank's global initiative to tackle inequality and promote greater economic inclusion for young people in local communities through the pillars of entrepreneurship, employability, and education. Sanjay Rugan, the executive officer Standard Chartered Bank, while addressing journalists, says that they continue to work in partnership with several NGOs and government to strengthen the capacity of young people and people with disabilities through employability skills so that they can improve their chances of getting entrepreneurship skills to empower them to start up their own businesses.
Our aspirations are to educate over 500,000 women, especially girls. Our aspiration is really to create so much more entrepreneurship, and we said we want to impact about 100,000 businesses, and then we also have a huge area of employability. So this is one of the other programs that we are leading. We have so many others. There's a gold program, all part of the Future Makers program. So fourth phase.
Makers program has already benefited me. It's not right now, I'm beyond how it's going to benefit me, but I've already gotten some chickens and just looking forward to bigger chickens.
Since 2019, the program has invested in 198 graduates that have provided business development support to 121 enterprises. Of these, 50% were females and 50% were males, and 8.5% were persons with disabilities. It has also bridged the gap between beneficiaries and ecosystem players. While unveiling the project on behalf of government, Dr. Joshua Mutambi commended investing additional 832 million in this youth program that will tackle financial inclusion.
And that's all what we want, because as government we are promoting inclusivity. We want all the enterprises to be formalized, to run business accounts, to know how to file returns formally as they continue growing in their businesses.
The Youth to Work program supports young people who have struggled to find employment with the skills they need to secure employment or pursue business ventures of their own. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now after the break, we do return with more Business Today, so stick around.
Smart 24, driving business.
The taste of Uganda in a new international park.
If you want to find gas in Nairobi, look no further.
Toast to luxury. Cheers to that, baby.
We run this city.
Period.
You're more Kenyan than all other Kenyans.
Najaribu sana.
Who said I'm bringing drama? I brought the shade.
You brought it.
I'm here and I'm very comfortable.
Party.
I am not leaving. It's not your party.
Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292#. Step 2. Select option 1. Register with Zabu. Step 3. Enter your full names. Step 4. Enter your national identification number. Step 5. Enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest.
He must be rich, tall, handsome, from a respectable family. He must have a maid because at our home we do not work.
Conductor Masao.
Owa, obadde olobye ku ssimu?
Yamunange, anti yo TV enkolera.
Nyumirwa omulembe omupya ogujjudde ebisanyusa omuli emikutu gya TV egisukka mu 8 n'egya radio nga kwotadde ne zifirimu ng'osinziirira wonna w'oli. Genda mu App Store oteeke app ya YoTV channels ku ssimu yo olwo onyumirwe ennaku 3 ng'olabira bwereere ewatali kozesa data. YoTV channels.
Is it because we lack the opportunities, or is it just because we don't have the self-drive? Let's just be open, let's just be candid with each other, because every person that I have spoken to that has come to Uganda says we are surrounded with opportunities, opportunity for growth. We just aren't utilizing them. Join us this Saturday on Women in Business on Smart 24 TV, Doreen Kemcha, as I talk to Meg, MD for Jakana Foods, and she gets to give us a little bit of insight about the opportunities that we have to grow. So see you this Saturday at 8 p.m. Women in Business.
Smart 24, driving business.
Good to have you back, and you're still watching Business Today, and let's get more business reports as they are happening in real time here from Uganda. And now moving on, we talk the JICA Uganda Development Initiatives. As being the largest refugee host country in Africa, Uganda experiences severe resource and infrastructure limitations. This has restricted economic potential in the afflicted areas. The government of Uganda, together with other stakeholders, have created a plan to meet the needs of both refugees and host communities. For instance, Japan has invested $7.9 million in a variety of programs to help with this initiative. We have more in this report.
Over 1.5 million refugees and asylum seekers are currently residing in Uganda, which continues to be Africa's largest refugee hosting nation. Some of these individuals have established businesses and employed locals, while others are engaged in agricultural activities in districts like Adjumani, Isingiro and Kampala, among others. However, this has resulted in issues with environmental issues, social cohesiveness and economic opportunity. On the other hand, Honorable Hilary Onek and Esther Nyakun, Ministers for Relief, Disaster Preparedness and Refugees, claim that refugees are not only a Ugandan problem but a global problem.
Give the program to them. In other words, they have to finance it because refugees is not our problem as Uganda. These refugees are from neighborhood where they have political problems and some of those primitive differences of tribal killing each other. Then they run into our country here. It's not our problem, it's an international problem.
Previously, we used to have refugees in the country and most of the benefits they used to get was on humanitarian basis. Right now, the STM is going to help us to see how to make sure that they get the humanitarian together with the development, which is also going to support both the refugees and the host community. So when you talk about the benefits, right now, we have so many programs that have been put there. For example, the government of Japan has put for us one of the biggest bridges.
The government has created the Settlement Transformation Agenda 2 approach in response to these difficulties in order to fulfill the economic needs for both refugees and host communities. For instance, the growth of physical infrastructure, such as roads and agriculture, has the ability to provide jobs and income in line with National Development Plan's emphasis on the development of the economy through infrastructure boom.
And these people also have to make income. Okay, so we work with UNHCR. Okay, and Japan is good at making rice. And I see many farmers in the refugees areas, not only refugees, but also the host communities. These people are getting more income than before. Okay, so we start from rice production, and from there they make money.
At the time when we had SDA1 in place, the number of refugees in Uganda were not 1.5, it was much less than that. Now what do? Why don't you embark on more modernized ways of agriculture so that the shrinking plots that are located to the newly arriving refugees are better used through modernized agricultural practices and so on and so forth.
Overall, the Settlement Transformation Agenda strategy is an important initiative that has the potential to improve the economic development of refugee hosting areas in Uganda through mobilizing resources, partnerships with private sector and local communities, and support from the international development partners. The program seeks to create vibrant, self-sustaining communities that benefit both refugees and host communities. Bronya Katsime compiled this story.
All right, now, besides that, we now turn our eyes to the axle-load restrictions. The Kenya National Highways Authority has installed high-speed weigh-in-motion weighbridges in its statistic weighbridge stations along the popular Mombasa-Malaba Highway. Despite pressure from the logistics partners to reduce the number of such stations, just a few days prior, the Kenya Ports Authority recommended reducing the number of weighbridges along the northern corridor from 9 to at least 3 for transit goods in order to improve cargo movement. Naomi Mutumba reports.
A transporter can load from the port and exit at the border without entering a single weighbridge due to the level of automation which we have.
Kenya leads the way in axle load control and management automation in East Africa, as it is the first country in the region to implement the weigh-in-motion technology countrywide, now observing positive impacts of the system deployment. The National Road Agency says trucks can now travel from Mombasa to any part of the country along the northern corridor without being stopped if they have complied with the set axle load limits.
Basically, under the East African Vehicle Road Control Act, the Act decriminalizes overloading. And therefore, all those vehicles that have been overloaded, either grossly or axle overload, are not expected to be taken to court. They are supposed to pay an overload fee.
Made adequate plans to ensure that there is seamless weighing of vehicles to facilitate faster movement of goods, especially those which are transiting through our country, to make sure that the northern corridor remains competitive. As you are aware, this is a key trunk road, northern corridor, which traverses through various countries within the East African region. We pass through Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and finally to DRC Congo.
Equipping the Way Bridge management infrastructure with Way in Motion represents a step towards better roads, fluent traffic, improved road safety and promoting trade among the EAC countries. Kenya National Highways Authority senior engineer from the Axle Load Control Unit, Kennedy Ndojire, maintains that they will not bow to pressure by some logistic companies pushing for the removal of way bridges, claiming that the overloading trucks damage Kenyan roads.
This station, we have installed the high-speed Way in Motion system. This system is able to filter vehicles moving at very high speeds of up to even 140 kilometers per hour. We'll be able to take their weights.
The new automated way bridges are intended to protect the roadways while also facilitating the speeder movement of product by preventing jam or stoppages of transit vehicles at these way bridge stations. The new way bridges take 15 to 20 seconds instead of the 2 to 3 minutes it used to take to weigh a truck with 99% compliance on the northern roads. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now, the emerging oil and gas sector boasts of investment amounting to about $20 billion US. National content has been a major lucrative part of the development. As local companies and investors anticipate participation, this hasn't, however, been obvious, right? Petson Mobile links up with Alea Sekatawa, who is the managing director of Rockstone Management Company, to understand how local players are taking up such opportunities in the oil and gas sector.
A very good evening, our dear viewer. We are here trying to unlock or looking at impressing local content in Uganda and trying to make sure that we secure some of the monies that come alongside with it. Now, we are going to have a discussion with Alea Sekatawa from Rockstone Management that is ready to give management services in the oil and gas sector. The oil and gas sector is a very big sector whereby we're looking at securing some of the local works that should be done here in Uganda. You're most welcome on the show, Madam Alea Sekatawa.
Thank you for having me.
What does Rockstone Management do in particular?
So Rockstone Management Company, we are an investment holding and management services company. So we provide management services to small businesses, growing businesses and large businesses. What this means is that we provide services with regards to business optimization, how to improve businesses, your processes, and strategy development. What is the best way for you to be able to run and manage your business?
We're speaking about unlocking local content in Uganda. How ready is Rockstone Management to secure some of the opportunities in the oil and gas sector?
I would imagine that Rockstone is quite ready. We have been working in the oil and gas sector, specifically with the Association of Oil and Gas Service Providers, since the beginning of the development of this pipeline in 2018. So we are quite ready and always ready to work, especially in the oil and gas sector.
There's this saying, I don't know how you're going to reply. They're saying that you being a Ugandan company does not give you a leeway that you're ready or you have all the requirements to tap into the opportunities in the oil and gas sector.
Yes.
Which requirements are you people supposed to go through to tap into these opportunities in the oil and gas sector?
I think by that statement, what it means is that being a Ugandan is not the only thing that provides you with access to engaging in the oil and gas sector. It also means that standards will not be lowered because you are Ugandan. This is an internationally competitive industry. You know that oil and gas is significantly prevalent in Nigeria, in Tanzania as well. So being a cross-border business and sector, it's important that when Ugandans are engaging with this sector, providing services, that they are consistently to a global standard. So if you want to engage in the oil and gas sector, being a Ugandan is good, but it's not good enough. You have to be competitive, your standards need to meet international standards, and you need to ensure that you're able to deliver at such a level.
Are you looking at tapping into these opportunities, the oil and gas sector?
Definitely. We are currently tapping into them. We partnered with the Oil and Gas Association in this particular sector because we think that as Rockstone, providing helping businesses provide structures and standards for their business, strategies for their business, is a way for us to ensure that national content is contributed in this particular sector. For us, it is important that all Ugandans have equal opportunity and access to this individual sector, because that is how we have inclusive economic growth.
I've been engaging with a couple of people from the oil and gas sector.
Yes.
Do you know their complaint? They are saying, you people, you're just not ready for these chances. Do you know there are some things, there are some services that have been ring-fenced for you local companies to take advantage of. But every time they get to you people, you're not just ready.
Yes.
You're not formalized. Your companies are not formal.
100%. And you can imagine what risks a lack of formalization, a lack of structure, a lack of clarity with regards to engagement gives international companies that want to work with you. I think that informality in our Ugandan businesses is something that has affected us not only in the oil and gas sector, but throughout our capacity to produce even in other sectors. If, for example, you don't have formalization, you're not registered, you don't have a trade license, how can you sign a legal contract with someone to operate? If you don't have financial procedures in your business, you're not tracking your expenses, you don't know whether or not your business is profitable, how can you secure financing from the bank? So this issue of Ugandan businesses being ring-fenced due to a lack of structure and formalization is not only specific to the oil and gas sector, but this informality is affecting our entire business and commercial capacity as a country at a larger scale. But the good thing is that there are businesses that are there to help you. The banks are here to help you. EcoBank has been prevalent here, Equity Bank as well, have mentioned the ways that they can help even with this gray area of formalization, no formalization, there's still a middle ground. So I would advise that instead of us, talking about the lack of access and the limitations that formality gives us, let's get our houses in order, let's pull up our socks and do what we need to do as Ugandans to ensure that we're formalized and we're able to contribute productively to this sector.
I'm very sure there's some challenges that you people pass through when it comes to securing these opportunities in the oil and gas sector. Tell us, is there any challenges that you've passed through that you think should be worked upon?
Yes, 100%. So many of them. For example, a lot of businesses don't know that in order for you to even engage in the oil and gas sector, you need to be signed up to, for example, the National Supplier Database, the NSD list for suppliers. This has like 100 hoops you need to pass through. You need to get bank recommendations. You need to get, a lot of formalization structures. But I think what that does is show you who is serious and who is not serious. Other challenges we faced is, of course, financing. And, you've mentioned an issue of formalization and an issue of Ugandan businesses. But I would say that more so Muslim businesses are even at a worse level, because we, unfortunately, if you follow our religion, you're not able to get even interest financing from the bank.
Tell me about that. I didn't know. You've talked of a religion. That Muslim businesses are not. Talk about it, please.
Yes, Muslim businesses are actually at a greatest disadvantage because they're unable to get these financing options from the bank because all of them are loan-based. So we, in our religion, we believe that you're not able to access loans because of the interest capacity that they provide. So it would be good as well if some financial institutions could come and help structure interest-free, whether it's joint partnerships, whether it's joint ventures, whether it's partnerships, whether it's a type of mezzanine financing that can give accessibility across the board, because the issue of interest is an issue that affects all of the businesses.
Thank you very much, Madam Alia, for speaking to us. Yes, that has been the issues of some of the people who are going to offer services to the oil and gas sector. Let's get back to you, back to the studios, and you'll get to know, and we'll be expounding more when it comes to tapping into the opportunities in the oil and gas sector here at Smart 24 Television. Thank you.
The oil and gas sector, still the future, and definitely the future of Uganda's economy is still depending on that one in there. But with that, we do come to the end of business today. But first, let's have a rewind of our top stories.
In business today, local oil and gas companies advise on formality and joint ventures to exploit oil and gas opportunities. Finance Ministry releases last quarter budget as wages and salaries dominate. Deficits in March recorded at 822 billion. And President Museveni issues 5 directives aimed at tourism development. Uganda targets a minimum $10,000 as individual tourism expense.
All right, now with 13 minutes to 10 o'clock, we do wish you a good night. I'm Jorum Sonko with Winni and Nakawuki on for the sign language. Until tomorrow, and from the entire team here at Smart 24 Plot for the 29 Avenue, we would wish you a happy Eid Mubarak to all our Muslim community brothers and sisters. To all of you, the business community that is watching in, a blessed night. We do wish to you, and like I said, to our Muslim brothers and sisters, happy Eid al-Fitr. I'm Jorum Sonko, Winni. Good evening.